Tai Tuivasa went from being on the verge of losing his job to winning the hearts of fans all across the globe. This shows that the fear of failure can be one of the biggest motivators out there. How did Tuivasa manage to turn his career around? Stay tuned to find out more about his transformation. Firstly, all about Tai Tuivasa's humiliating losing streak. Before we get into celebrating the fighter's great journey to improvement, let's discuss when Tai was at his lowest. Towards the end of 2019, Tuivasa was expected to be one of the best fighters with a promising career. What came in the way of that? The Australian heavyweight fighter suffered a humiliating loss in his hometown thanks to Sergey Spivak. Tai was put in a brutal arm triangle choke in the cage in front of all of his fans, friends, and family. If this doesn't sound embarrassing enough, we'll refresh your memory by telling you that this was Tai's third consecutive loss. Oh, it was a bad time for Tuivasa, but he channeled those shameful moments into having one of the best comebacks ever. How did this happen? The Australian champion had jaw-dropping reactions to his fourth consecutive win after brutally knocking out Sakai at UFC 269. We love how he went from having a losing streak to coming back stronger and being undefeated 4 times in the octagon. Next, Tuivasa reflects on how unfocused he had been. The Australian fighter made his impressive UFC debut in November 2017. However, as previously discussed, he failed to keep up the fighter mode he first stepped into the cage with. What did he have to say about it all? After his spectacular return to the UFC and 4 wins to shield him, Tuivasa spoke up on how he had always been confident. In an interview with the MMA Hour, he elaborated on how he is a fighter at heart and will do anything to counter his rivals, no matter who or where they are. Then what was the problem in doing so? The 28-year-old heavyweight truthfully admitted that his head wasn't in the sport back then. Tai was present physically, but mentally he struggled in adapting to the way fights took place in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Why was this so? Tai reasoned that he was just a small fighter from Australia that got caught up in the UFC, and in the initial fights of his debut era, he got caught up all over in his head. The fighter claimed that he knew he had to fix his mindset if he wanted to transform his passion for fighting into a flourishing career. We're glad he took the time to reflect on how he could excel. Let's move on to see what changes helped him succeed. What changes did the Australian heavyweight make? During his soul-searching days, Tai concluded that he loved fighting in the octagon. He loved the thrill, the competition, the blood, and injuries, all of it. However, he still knew he needed to be more professional when it came to fighting in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Ready to find out what changes he made to embrace his full potential as a fighter? Sit tight, because we're about to tell you. Tuivasa bravely admitted that he was unhappy and non-serious before. The fighter struggled to adjust to the training sessions, and this impacted his performance in the octagon. Back then, the heavyweight ate and drank whatever he wanted and didn't have plans to pursue a career in the MMA sport full-time. Thankfully, things are looking way better for the 28-year-old fighter now, and it's all thanks to the hard work that he put in making himself better. Let's be real, the loss in 2019 took a toll on the fighter, and he used that time to make sure that he starts taking his training sessions seriously. Tai revealed that now he has all the fun he wants, but he approaches training sessions more seriously while thinking how to be more professional about it. He focuses on keeping a determined mindset and eating clean. We're proud of the changes Tai made, but what motivated him to do so? Keep watching to find out. Up next, Tuivasa on how losing made him a better fighter. From being knocked out in your hometown to becoming an instant fan favorite is a journey that every aspiring fighter wants to go through. Tai Tuivasa secured mind-blowing finishes in fights with Stefan Struve, Harry Hunsucker, Greg Hardy, and Augusto Sakai. The success of these fights boosted his positions on the heavyweight rankings. He also debuted at number 13 on MMA Fighting's global rankings in January 2022. The fighter became a fan favorite thanks to his post-fight shoey traditions. What's that? It's an Australian tradition of pouring an alcoholic beverage into a shoe and drinking from it to celebrate a win. We can't decide if that's amusing or gross. Moving on, Tai said that he always knew in his heart that it would take time for him to fully get back on track with his UFC career. When asked what motivated the UFC fighter to improve himself, he named losing as one of the biggest motivators to get back on track. Tuivasa revealed that it was tough for him to sit there with his face covered in blood as his fans, friends, and family watched. The fighter didn't mind losing, but he knew he wasn't doing his best. Now, Tai has bounced back stronger than ever in hopes of supporting his family and promises to knock down every fighter he comes across in the octagon. We hope he stays focused on his intense training sessions and is gearing up to win against Derrick Lewis at UFC 271 on February 12, 2022. Now that we've celebrated Tuivasa's splendid comeback, let's move on to observe what else is going on in the MMA world. Sean O'Malley to sit out of the octagon for a while. Unfortunately, UFC fighter Sean O'Malley has to continue his hiatus until June or July 2022. Why is this so? The bantamweight fighter is still recovering from an excruciating thumb fracture he suffered in December 2021 from knocking out Raulian Paiva at UFC 269. Where did the fighter make this announcement? The fighter revealed on his official podcast that March 2022 is too soon to step into the cage and that his injury wouldn't heal by then. With a heavy heart, O'Malley elaborated elaborated that he hasn't been able to train or improve any of his skills since the fracture. Winning against Paiva marked Sean's third consecutive win, and the fighter can't wait to get back to throwing punches left and right. UFC President Dana White commented that more money and rounds of tougher fights await O'Malley's return to the combat sport once he is fully recovered. We hope Sean isn't too upset about sitting out for a while and hope he can get back to knocking out his rivals in no time. Next, Robert Whittaker blames his ego issues for losing against Adesanya. Whittaker believes that his egotistic thought process allowed him to get carried away during his first fight with Israel Adesanya. While it's possible that Adesanya could simply be the better fighter in general, Robert believes he was at fault for letting his thoughts cloud his judgment and negatively impact his performance in the cage. When did they first meet? The two fighters went head-to-head at UFC 243 in 2019, where Adesanya managed to knock out Whittaker in the second round and take his middleweight championship title. How did Whittaker cope with this loss? Same as Tai Tuivasa. He took the time to reflect on his thoughts and actions. Robert unapologetically admitted that he had failed to see what Adesanya did when they first met, that Whittaker had a huge ego. He admitted that he let the words of his rivals get in his head, hurt his ego, and made him lose focus during fights. The former middleweight fighter has been evaluating his mistakes and how to improve on them. Whittaker wants to prove to the combat sports world that he will be showing up as a completely different fighter for a rematch with Israel Adesanya in February 2022. Now, Kamaru Usman posted a harsh message to his haters on Snapchat. Being famous has its pros and cons, and sometimes it all gets a bit too much. We're not shocked that someone as respected as Kamaru Usman lost his cool over trolls being hateful. Celebrities and athletes are humans, and just like everyone else, they get cranky and have outbursts too. That's exactly what happened to the Nigeria Nightmare when he saw a few haters keeping tabs on his Snapchat stories. The UFC legend posted messages suggesting haters who base their lives around spreading negativity to choke and kill themselves. What more did he say about it? Usman cleared up the confusion the next morning and claimed that he knew he came off a bit too strong with countering the hateful messages. The MMA champion clarified that the message was for a specific hater or a group of them so that they could stop harassing him on social media. What did he have to say for those who support him? Of course, he has nothing but love for his supporters. Kamaru claimed that he appreciates his real fans and will continue to do so always. We think everyone should think twice before commenting something rude towards celebrities on social media. And that's a wrap for this video. We hope you enjoyed it. What do you think about Tuivasa's transformation? And are you looking forward to Whittaker's rematch with Adesanya? Do you think Sean O'Malley will win the next time he steps into the cage? Let us know in the comments. And thanks for watching.